Every morning, before the city remembers how loud it can be, Haneul Florist wakes up. The shutters roll up with a tired scrape. The glass door opens. A small bell above it rings once. Clear, bright, like it still believes the world is simple. Seon-woo steps inside. He flicks on the lights, one row at a time. Soft yellow washes over rows of flowers. White lilies, roses in every shade, tiny baby's breath like scattered stars. Buckets of water, stems wrapped in green. He moves like someone who has done this 1,000 times. Jacket off, sleeves rolled, hands washed. The apron goes on last, tied neatly behind his back. Outside, the alley is still quiet. A stray cat hops up on the window ledge and stares in, as if counting what's changed and what hasn't. Inside, Seon-woo checks the flowers the way some people check weapons, with focus, with care. He trims stems, changes water, removes a bruised petal from a rose like it's an offense he refuses to tolerate. His face is calm, almost gentle. Only the thin scars along his fingers hint that he has ever held anything sharper than pruning shears. In the corner of the shop, a small TV hangs on the wall, turned to a morning news program. Police remain tight-lipped about the so-called shadow boss rumored to be controlling several districts, the anchor says. Anonymous sources claim. Seon-woo glances up. A blurry photo appears on screen. The outline of a suited figure, face hidden by shadow and pixelation. His hand stills over a bucket of tulips. Then he reaches up, presses the power button on the TV, and the shop goes quiet again. He doesn't need to see the rest. Outside, a neighbor passes by with her dog. She waves through the window. "Good morning, Florista Juicy," she calls. He gives a small nod in return and quietly flips the sign on the door. Open. The first customers of the day are easy. A schoolgirl, cheeks pink, asking for something not too obvious, for a teacher she secretly likes. A man in a worn suit, buying a single carnation for his mother in the hospital. Seon-woo listens more than he talks. "Nothing too flashy," the schoolgirl says, fidgeting. He hands her a small bouquet of soft colors. "Gentle but sincere," he says. "This will say what you want, without shouting." She leaves smiling, clutching it like armor. By late morning, the shop smells like earth and sweetness. His hands are wet and green-stained. He looks almost peaceful. Then the bell rings again. He doesn't know it yet, but that sound pulls a thread straight out of the past. She bursts in with the air of someone who ran the last block but is pretending she didn't. "Hello," she says, a little too loud. A young woman in her mid-20s, hair hastily tied back, office ID still hanging around her neck. Her blouse is neat, but there's a coffee stain near the bottom hem that she clearly hasn't noticed. She stops halfway to the counter, suddenly very aware of the quiet around her. The shop wraps around her with its soft colors and damp, cool air. Hi," she says again, smaller this time. Seon-woo looks up from the bouquet he's building and studies her for a moment. He sees the slight tremble in her fingers, the paper crushed in her hand, the polite mask of a junior employee trying not to mess up. "What do you need?" he asks. His voice is calm, low, not unfriendly but not inviting either. She straightens, remembering why she's here, and steps forward. "I have to order a flower arrangement," she says. "For my boss." She glances down at the paper, then back up. "It's a big deal. Congratulations, flowers. For a new position." She forces a small laugh. "No pressure, but if I get this wrong, I might die." It's meant as a joke. It doesn't land that way in this shop. "Name?" he asks. "Choi Ji-eun," she says automatically. He shakes his head once. "For the card," he clarifies. "The recipient." "Oh, right." She blinks. "They just told me to write boss. Just one word. Boss." Something in his gaze sharpens. "No name?" he asks. "No, sir," she says. "Everyone just calls him that. Or chairman. Or," she lowers her voice, "or the person upstairs." She laughs awkwardly and extends the paper to him. "I also have the address," she says. They want it delivered this evening. To this building. He takes the paper. The address is simple. A glossy new office tower that, to most people, houses a logistics company. To him, it is something else. He reads the street name and feels a memory press against the back of his skull. He knows that building. He knows the men who used to own it. He knows the boy who used to sit at the far end of a long table, eyes bright and hungry. He folds the paper. We don't usually deliver there, he says. Ji-eun's eyes widen. What? Really? She swallows. I can pay delivery fee. I'll carry it myself if I have to. If I go back and say I failed to order flowers because the florist refused, my manager will. Her voice wobbles on the last word. He studies her again. Just another office worker trying to survive her job. She doesn't know whose hands are really behind her company's money. He sighs quietly. I can make the bouquet, he says. But you'll pick it up. Her shoulders drop in relief. Ah, thank you, she says, bowing slightly. Seriously, thank you. You might have just saved my life. He arches an eyebrow. Basmu sasulit itu? He asks without thinking, slipping into a familiar rhythm of speech. She blinks, surprised by the shift in tone, then lets out a nervous laugh. He's intense, she says carefully. People say he took over some complicated business. I don't know. I'm just a junior secretary. I just send emails and order coffee and now, apparently, flowers. He turns toward the rows of blooms. What kind of person is he? He asks. She tilts her head. Everyone's scared of him, she says. But the way higher-ups talk, they also respect him. Like he rebuilt something that was broken. Or took over something no one else wanted to touch. She thinks for a second. They say he doesn't like cheap things, she adds. Or lies. Seon-woo's jaw tenses. Of course. That sounds exactly like the boy he once trained. Color? He asks. I don't know, she admits. Can you choose? Something that says, congratulations on your scary new position. Please don't kill us, but in a respectful way. It's ridiculous. But the earnest way she says it pulls a short exhale from him. Almost like a laugh. Sit, he says, nodding toward a small wooden chair by the window. I'll ask what the flowers think. She blinks again. The flowers? She repeats. But he's already moving. He walks along the buckets, fingertips brushing leaves. For dignity and respect, white lilies. He murmurs, mostly to himself. He picks a few, trims them with swift, clean motions. For clean beginnings that are probably not clean at all. He adds softly, white roses. He adds a cluster. For loyalty that may or may not last. He continues, choosing a smaller flower with a steady color, eustoma. He builds the bouquet layer by layer, hands sure. Ji-eun watches from her chair, fascinated. You talk like they're people, she says. They're better listeners, he answers. She smiles despite herself. So what flower says, please don't fire your secretary, she asks. Baby's breath, he replies, not missing a beat. He tucks small white sprays around the base. Why? She asks. Because it fills the empty spaces, he says. Quietly doing the work no one notices. But everything looks wrong without it. Her mouth falls open a little. That's oddly comforting, she says. He wraps the bouquet in deep, matte paper. No shiny plastic. No loud ribbon. Elegant. Controlled. She leans in. It's beautiful, she breathes. It's appropriate, he corrects. He reaches for a small cream-colored card. Message? He asks. She fumbles with her notes. My manager suggested congratulations on your ever-growing influence. May your reign last forever. She reads, then winces. Is that too much? He stares at her. That sounds like you're pledging allegiance to a dictator, he says flatly. She winces harder. I thought so too, she says. But he outranks me and I like being employed. He taps the card against his fingers, thinking. Then he writes in neat, deliberate handwriting. To the boss, congratulations on your new position. May your decisions bring peace, not just power. He slides the card toward her. Too honest? He asks. She reads it, eyes widening. It's… She searches for the word. Brave. It's respectful, he says. And a reminder. To him? She asks. To everyone in that room, he answers. She hesitates, then nods. Okay, she says. Let's use that. As he tucks the card into its small holder, his fingers pause. On the back corner of the card, where no one pays attention, he draws a tiny, specific mark. A simple shape, almost decorative. To most people, meaningless. To one person, unmistakable. A signature from another life. When the bouquet is done, he sets it carefully on the counter between them. You can pick it up at 5, he says. It will last better if you don't drag it through the heat all day. She nods eagerly. I'll come right after work, she says. Thank you, Ajusi. Really. If my boss likes this, I might actually survive until payday. She digs into her bag, pulls out a business card. This is the company, she says. And my number, in case you need to send an invoice or something. He takes it. The company name is written in sleek letters. The logo looks respectable, modern, harmless. He knows its predecessor, back when the logo was hidden in back rooms and whispered deals. He nods. I'll have it ready, he says. She smiles. Quick, bright, grateful, and bows once before backing toward the door. He looks at her, at the way she tries to laugh off her own fear. Keep your confidence, he says. It'll be useful when the world tries to take it. She blinks at the unexpected seriousness, then nods. I'll try, she says softly. The bell rings when she leaves. The shop is quiet again. Only then does he allow his shoulders to drop. He picks up her business card once more, reading the printed name of the company. His reflection in the glass cooler looks back at him. Not a florist. Not really. You chose this, he mutters to himself. You walked away. He puts the card down next to the folded address. The ink of the street name looks like it's bleeding. The afternoon passes in colors. Customers come and go. Roses are sold, wrapped, handed off with small smiles. But the bouquet for the boss stays on the back counter, separate. Waiting. Every time Seon-woo passes it, his eyes linger for a moment on that tiny mark at the corner of the card. By the time the clock on the wall ticks toward 5, the sky outside has started to soften. The bell rings again. Ji-eun stumbles in, slightly out of breath, hair a little messy from rushing. I made it, she pants. My manager tried to give me one more email to send, but I escaped. You should negotiate better, he says dryly. Humans outside your office also have closing times. She laughs. I'll add that to my list of life skills, she says. Right after don't anger scary bosses and don't spill coffee on contracts. He lifts the bouquet between them. Hold it from here, he instructs, adjusting her grip. Not the middle. Don't crush the stems. She nods, taking it carefully. It looks almost too elegant in her shaky hands. Seeing the worry on her face, he adds, softer. He will like it, he says, whether he shows it or not. You sound sure, she says. I know the type, he answers. She studies him. Have you worked with someone like that before? She asks. He pauses for half a breath. I used to sell something that made people bleed, he says simply. Now I sell flowers. I prefer this inventory. She doesn't know what to say to that, so she just nods. Thank you, she murmurs, for the bouquet. And the metaphor, I guess. He looks at her one last time. If anything feels wrong up there, he says quietly, leave. Flowers can always be reordered. People can't. A shiver runs up her arms that has nothing to do with the temperature. I'll remember that, she says. She bows and steps backward out of the shop, careful not to bump the bouquet against anything. The bell chimes. The door closes. He stands alone again. His gaze drops to the table, to the faint dust of trimmed stems and leaves that remain. His hands rest on the wood. It was going to happen eventually, he murmurs. He turns his head toward the small TV on the wall. It's still dark. He doesn't turn it back on. The building where Ji-eun works looks even more intimidating at night. Glass and steel. Lights burning on the upper floors. Men in suits who look like they've never had to answer to anyone. She hugs the bouquet like a shield as she steps into the lobby. The receptionist barely glances up. "Delivery?" he asks. "Flowers," she stammers. "For the boss." The receptionist presses a button. "Send her up," a voice says over the intercom. The elevator ride feels longer than usual. By the time the doors open to the top floor, her palms are sweaty, but the bouquet is still perfect. She walks down a corridor that smells like expensive air freshener and faint cigarette smoke. An older man in a suit opens the door at the end. His expression is neutral, but his eyes flick immediately to the flowers in her hands. "The florist did well," he says quietly. "Come." She steps inside. The office is wide, lined with windows overlooking the city. Night has already draped itself over the buildings. At the far end of the room, facing the glass, a man sits in a leather chair. Even from behind, there is weight in his posture. She approaches slowly. "Excuse me, sir," she says, voice barely above a whisper. "Your congratulatory flowers arrived." He doesn't turn immediately. "Place them here," he says, gesturing to a low table. She does as told, bending carefully, setting the bouquet so every angle looks perfect. Only when she steps back does he reach for it. His hands are steady as they touch the wrapping, the petals, the stems. He studies the bouquet with a surprising focus, as if reading a report. "This is not from the usual place," he says. "No, sir," she says. "It's from a small shop, Haneul Florist." The name hangs in the air. His fingers pause over a white lily. "And the message?" he asks. She swallows. "To the boss. Congratulations on your new position. May your decisions bring peace, not just power," she recites. The room goes very quiet. For a long moment he says nothing. Then he turns the card. His eyes land on the tiny mark at the back. The world narrows to a dot. Ji-eun doesn't notice it, but he does. His jaw tightens. "Who wrote this?" he asks, his voice different now. Lower, slower. "The florist, sir," she says. "He adjusted the message my manager suggested." "I see," he murmurs. He stares at the mark as if it's a ghost. "Is something wrong?" she asks carefully. He doesn't answer her directly. Instead, he asks, "Describe him." "Who, sir?" she says. "The florist," he says. She thinks. "He's quiet," she says. "Kind of grumpy, but in a nice way. Talks to flowers more than to people. Looks like the type who used to do something important but got tired and ran away to open a small shop in an alley." She smiles nervously, realizing she's said too much. To her relief, the corner of his mouth twitches just slightly. "Did he say anything?" he asks. "About you?" she asks. His gaze cuts to her. She straightens. "He asked what kind of person you are," she admits. "And he chose the flowers based on that." "Based on what exactly?" he presses. "That people fear you," she says, "but respect you. That you fix something broken. That you don't like cheap things or lies." Silence again. She rushes to fill it. "I don't think he meant anything bad," she says quickly. "He seemed very serious about." "What did he look like?" he interrupts. Her mind flashes back to the shop. To the apron, the steady hands, the scars, the eyes that saw too much. "Like someone who used to be dangerous," she says slowly, "but decided not to be. At least not anymore." The boss fingers close around the card. The tiny mark, simple, almost decorative, digs into his palm. He remembers a room full of smoke. Men with hard eyes. A younger version of himself, kneeling before a man at the head of the table. A voice saying, "If you want this throne one day, you'd better be ready to die for it. Or worse, live with it." He thought that man was dead. He made sure of it. Now the flowers on his table smell like lilies and old promises. "You may go," he says. Ji-eun bows, confused but grateful to be dismissed. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. She walks backward out of the office, closing the door quietly behind her. Outside, in the corridor, she exhales shakily. Inside, the boss stands and walks to the window. City lights smear themselves across the glass. He lifts the card again, turning it between his fingers. He's still alive, he says softly to no one. His reflection in the glass is joined by another one in his memory. A man with calm eyes and bloody knuckles, who once told him to never rely on flowers to fix anything. He looks down at the bouquet. Old man, he murmurs. Did you really think you could hide behind petals? Behind him, his phone buzzes. A message from an unlisted contact appears. Boss, confirmation. Target believed dead is running a flower shop in that alley. Name, Haneul Florist. He types back only 2 words. Of course. He sets the phone down and plucks one white lily from the bouquet. He walks to a shelf where an old, half-faded photograph leans against some books. In the photo, a group of young men grin at the camera, faces blurred by age. On the edge of the frame, the shoulder of someone older, sharper, is just visible. He places the lily in a small vase beside it. Wait for me, he says quietly. I'm not done with you yet. Back in the alley, Haneul Florist glows softly under its sign. Seon-woo stands inside, counting the day's earnings, pretending not to watch the door. His phone buzzes on the counter. He picks it up. A message from a number he hasn't seen in a long time. He got the flowers. He recognized your mark. Another message follows before he can respond. He knows you're alive. Seon-woo exhales slowly. He looks around his shop, at the flowers, at the quiet, at the fragile piece he's built out of stems and petals and apologies he's never said. He types back. If he comes, tell him this. I don't sell blood anymore. He hesitates, then adds, if he still wants to talk, he should come with empty hands. He sends it. Outside, the cat jumps from the window ledge and disappears into the night. Seon-woo flips the sign on the door from open to closed. In another part of the city, a man who was supposed to be his successor nurses an old grudge and a new curiosity. In a small apartment, a junior secretary lies awake, thinking of a grumpy florist who talks to flowers like old friends. And somewhere between all of them, invisible and inevitable, a path begins to form. In this city, even flowers have past lives. Next time, some of that past is going to walk through Haneul Florist's front door. And when it does, Seon-woo will have to decide whether he is really just a florist, or still, somewhere underneath the apron and soil-stained hands, the fallen dawn everyone thought was dead. Morning comes, same as always, but inside Haneul Florist, nothing feels the same. The shutters roll up. The bell over the door rings softly as Seon-woo steps inside. Just like yesterday, just like the day before. He turns on the lights, breathes in the cool, damp air of the flowers, and for a moment, it almost feels like the life he chose is still intact. Almost. He takes out his phone before he starts the water, before he trims a single stem. One unread message glows on the screen. He saw the mark. He knows it's you. Underneath it, another. He'll come himself. You know his style. Seon-woo stares at the words for a long while, thumb hovering over the glass. Of course he knows. The boy he trained never did anything halfway. He locks the phone, sets it face down on the counter, and forces himself to move. Buckets filled, stems trimmed, petals checked for bruises. The rhythm of his hands tries to convince his mind that this is just another day, another set of flowers, another list of orders. But every time the bell above the door rings, his shoulders tighten. Every footstep outside sounds like it could turn toward his shop. He picks up his phone once more, types, "If he comes, I won't run." His finger hesitates over send. Then he deletes the last 2 words. He sends, "Don't let anyone else get dragged in." He puts the phone away. For now, there's nothing left but flowers and waiting. The first person to walk through the door is not the man from his nightmares. It's the girl caught in the middle of them. The bell rings, and Ji-eun slips inside, closing the door carefully behind her as if afraid even the sound of it might draw attention. She looks more tired than yesterday. There are faint shadows under her eyes, and the usual nervous smile doesn't quite reach her face. You're early, Seon-woo says. He doesn't stop arranging the tulips in his hand, but his eyes flick up to her. Sorry, she says quickly. I know you just opened. I just needed to get away from my office for 5 minutes without pretending I'm going to print something. He gestures toward the small chair by the window. Sit, he says. You're wrinkling the air. It's a dry joke, but she huffs out a short laugh and does as told. I brought coffee, she says, holding up a cup. One for me, one for the Ajusi who saved me from getting murdered over a flower arrangement. He pauses. Black? He asks. Yes, she says. I assumed. You don't look like someone who enjoys syrup. He takes the cup. Thank you, he says quietly. She wraps both hands around her own cup, as if trying to warm herself from the inside. So, she begins, eyes on the lilies near the counter. My boss really liked the bouquet. I told you he would, Seon-woo replies. He also asked a lot of questions about the florist. She adds. Silence settles between them. What kind of questions? He asks. The kind that make the air feel heavier, she says. Where is the shop exactly? Who goes there? How long you've been open? If you always worked with flowers. She swallows. And then he said something I can't stop thinking about. What? He prompts. He said. She tries to mimic the boss' low, flat tone. Some people in this city don't know when to stay buried. She looks up at him. Ajusi, she says softly. You're not just a florist, are you? He doesn't answer for a moment. Instead, he takes a slow sip of coffee, eyes on the window where the alley lies quiet and narrow. Everyone is just something to someone, he says. To you, I'm a florist. To my landlord, a tenant who pays late but not too late. To a cat outside, a reliable source of leftover tuna. He sets the cup down. To some people, he adds, I'm a mistake they thought they erased. Her fingers tighten around the cup. Is he dangerous? She asks. My boss. The truth is complicated. So he gives her the version she can carry. He's someone who learned that control is easier than trust, he says. And that fear works faster than love. That sounds like a yes, she whispers. He doesn't argue. For a moment, she covers her eyes with one hand, elbow propped on her knee. I knew something was off, she says quietly, but I thought it was just corporate evil, not actual evil. You can still leave, he says. You're young. You can find another job. She laughs, a short, brittle sound. Have you seen rent prices? She says. Or my student loans? He doesn't smile. Instead, he reaches for a sprig of baby's breath and places it near her cup. Then you need to be careful, he says. Very careful, Ji-eun SSI. She looks at the small flowers. Is there a flower for, I accidentally work for a criminal empire? She asks. Yes, he answers. She looks up, surprised. There is? She says. It's called resignation letter, he says. She rolls her eyes, but the corner of her mouth lifts. Not helpful, she murmurs. But thank you for trying. He glances at the clock. You should go before your boss decides he owns your lunch break too, he says. She stands, smoothing her skirt. Ajusi, she says, hesitation hanging around his title. If things get weird, can I come here? He doesn't think long. Yes, he says. As long as you don't bring the weird inside with you. She bows once, deeply. I'll try, she says. The bell rings as she leaves. The shop breathes out. He does not. The world on the top floor of her building feels colder after the flower shop. Ji-eun walks back into her office, clutching her coffee cup like a lifeline. Where have you been? Her manager hisses as she slides into her chair. He asked for the quarterly projections and your desk was empty. I went to the print room, she lies. Her manager searches her face, then sighs. Whatever, he mutters. Just be ready. He wants you upstairs this afternoon. Me? she squeaks. Yes, you, he says. He wants a direct report on that florist. I don't know what you did, but I suggest you pray it was the right thing. The hours crawl. When her phone finally buzzes with a message from the assistant on the top floor, her palms go immediately clammy. Boss wants to see you. Now. She stands on legs that don't feel entirely solid and rides the elevator up. The corridor looks longer than it did yesterday. When she steps into the office, he is again facing the window, city spread out below like a circuit board. Come, he says without turning. She stops a respectful distance away. How are you finding our flower supplier? He asks. He says it like a casual question. Her heart hears it like a test. They're professional, she says carefully. The arrangement was beautiful. The message was meaningful. People talked about it. Did they? He asks. He turns slowly, and those sharp eyes land on her like cold hands. He has a good sense for tone, she continues. Not too flashy, respectful, but not sycophantic. And the man himself? He asks. What did you think? She remembers the calm hands, the quiet advice, the switch in his eyes when he heard the address, the way he warned her to leave if something felt wrong. He looks like someone who has seen too much, she says finally, but chose something softer, even if it doesn't quite fit him yet. His eyebrow lifts just slightly. You're more observant than your manager, he says. Her throat feels tight. Is that good? She asks. We will see, he says. He takes a single step closer. Listen carefully, Ji-eun SSI, he says. That florist is not just a florist. At least not to me. She swallows. I guessed that, sir, she says. The man who runs that shop, he continues, was once the person everyone in this city called boss. Before me, before any of these walls existed. Her stomach drops. That man, he says, taught me everything I know about power. He holds her gaze. Do you understand what that means? He asks. She thinks of the scarred hands arranging lilies. The TV he turned off when the news mentioned a shadow boss. She nods, slowly. I think so, she whispers. It means, he says, each word deliberate, that his existence is a question I cannot ignore. Silence stretches. I want to know everything about how he lives now, he says. Who visits? Who protects him? Who he cares about? Who would suffer if something happened to him? Her heart spikes. With all due respect, sir, she says, voice shaking. May I ask why? He studies her for a moment. Are you loyal to him? He asks. I barely know him, she says honestly. I just bought flowers. But you went back today, he says, without an order. Heat rises to her face. She begins, then stops. Lying feels like walking barefoot over glass in this room. He seems like a good person trying to stay out of trouble, she says softly. It made me worry, that's all. His jaw works, as if he is chewing on a thought. Good person, he repeats faintly, as if trying the phrase on someone he remembers differently. He moves back to his desk. Go back to your work, he says. If I need your impressions again, I'll call. And the florist? She asks. You'll see, he says, which is not an answer. Not really. She bows and leaves, heart pounding. As the elevator doors close, she realizes she is shaking. She thinks of the tiny shop in the quiet alley, and of a man who chose flowers over whatever came before. If she does nothing, she tells herself, this will play out between men who started this long before she existed. If she does something, she might become part of it. The worst part is, she still doesn't know which is safer. June SSI. The boss says without looking away, go outside for a moment. She flinches. Yes, sir, she says. She moves toward the door, but pauses as she passes Seon-woo. Her hand brushes the counter near his. It's not quite a touch, but it's close. He doesn't look at her, but he says lightly, don't go far. I might need someone to explain lilies to a stubborn customer. She nods once and slips out. The bell rings. Now it's just the two of them. You should have stayed dead, the younger man says. You should have listened the first time I told you not to take the chair, Seon-woo replies. The boss steps closer, hands still in his pockets. When you vanished, you left a war behind, he says. Someone had to end it. You didn't end it, Seon-woo says. You just learned how to tax it. The younger man chuckles low. This is exactly how I remember you, he says. Disappointing and honest. He looks around. Why flowers? He asks. You could have run further. Bought a bar by the sea. Gotten fat somewhere no one knows your name. The sea has too many ghosts, Seon-woo says. Here, at least, things die for a reason. He lifts a stem. They grow, he adds quietly. They bloom. They fade. No one is surprised when it happens. No one pretends they last forever. The boss watches him for a moment. Did you call me here with that mark? He asks. Or was it just arrogance? A habit you couldn't drop? It was a warning, Seon-woo says. You're not the only one who doesn't like lies. A warning or an invitation? The younger man asks. Depends what you do with it, Seon-woo replies. Silence falls again. Eventually, the boss says, I have a problem. Only one. Seon-woo asks. You, he says simply. You are my problem. Flattered. The older man says dryly. You exist. The boss continues. That means every deal I make, every threat I give, every loyalty I command, comes with a shadow. Someone can always say, but the old boss might come back. He steps closer. I built this, he says. I bled for it. You don't get to undermine that by standing in a flower shop pretending you're harmless. So what do you want? Seon-woo asks. My death, properly finished this time? Or my apology? I want you to be useful, the younger man says. He leans against the counter, picking up a stray leaf, rolling it between his fingers. The world is uglier than when you left it, he says. The police are hungrier, the money dirtier, the kids more reckless. I could use someone who understands the old ways. Someone who can whisper in my ear when a merger looks more like a war. He looks up again. You can keep your shop, he says. Let the neighbors bring their lovers' quarrels here. Smile at the cat. In the back room, we talk business. No one has to know. No, Seon-woo says. The answer is immediate. No hesitation. No drama. Just a quiet, solid refusal. This is not a negotiation, the boss says. It always is, Seon-woo replies. You're just not used to people saying no to you anymore. His former student's eyes harden. You think this shop protects you? He says. These people out there who buy their little apology bouquets and graduation flowers? I think they deserve not to be collateral, Seon-woo says. Which is why I will not help you sharpen the knives. The younger man leans in, voice dropping. You made me, he says. You put the gun in my hand, sat me at the table and said, if you take this seat, you can never be small again. Don't you dare wash your hands and call it redemption. I am not washing my hands, Seon-woo says quietly. I'm finally looking at them. The boss jaw clenches. What are you going to do then? He asks. Stand here with your lilies and hope I trip on the doormat? I'm going to end what I started, Seon-woo says. Properly this time. Their eyes lock, and for a moment, something flickers behind the boss' anger. Fear. Not of this man. Of what ending might look like. He straightens. You always talked about courage, he says. Let's see if you still recognize it. He turns toward the door. When I send people back here, he says, hand on the handle, they won't be as polite. Then send smarter people, Seon-woo replies. The ones outside just now were bored. The younger man looks over his shoulder, a humorless smile on his lips. You haven't changed, he says. That's the problem, Seon-woo says. The boss leaves. The bell rings. The shop feels smaller after he goes. The door opens again a minute later. Ji-eun steps in, face pale. He didn't look like he wanted more flowers, she says weakly. No, Seon-woo says. He wanted to harvest something else. She swallows. I heard some of it, she admits. Not enough to understand everything. Just enough to want to throw up. It's not a pretty story, he says. Are you going to take his deal? She asks, voice tight. Be his advisor? No, he says. Then he'll come after you, she says. And everyone near you. I know, he says. He walks to the back counter, pulls out a small wooden box. Inside are old things. A lighter with an engraving, a ring, a few folded pieces of paper. He takes them out one by one. I thought I could leave all this in here, he says. Let the past rot quietly while I sold sympathy in vases. He unfolds one paper. It's a list of names, addresses, dates. Turns out, the past is louder than I am, he says. She steps closer. What is that? She asks. Receipts, he says. From a life I should have paid for a long time ago. Her stomach twists. So you're going to what? Confess? She whispers. Yes, he says simply. And I'm going to take him down with me. She stares at him. The police? She asks. You're going to the people my company bribes for parking tickets and zoning permits? A faint smile tugs at his mouth. I know which ones are on the payroll, he says, and which ones have been chasing our shadows for years. He looks up at her. I'm going to give them a bouquet they can't refuse, he says. She shakes her head. This is insane, she says. They'll arrest you. They'll put you in prison for the rest of your life. Or he'll get to you first. You're right, he says. All of that could happen. Then why? She demands. He considers his answer, then says simply, because leaving him in that chair is the same as still sitting there myself. Her eyes sting. You're just ready to go? She asks. After building all this? He looks around at his shop. At least this way, when I go, it means something, he says. Not just another body in a ledger. He pulls out a fresh sheet of paper and begins to write, pen scraping quietly across the surface. Names, dates, deals, the kinds of details prosecutors dream about and criminals fear. He writes quickly, like a man who has been rehearsing this in his head for years. When he's done, he folds the pages carefully and slips them into a plain envelope. Then he turns to the flowers. What are you doing? Ji-eun asks. Making one last arrangement, he says. He chooses white lilies, not for purity, but for surrender. White roses for respect he's never claimed. Baby's breath, the quiet workers of bouquets, for people like her. He wraps the stems around the envelope, secures it with tape and ribbon, so it just looks like another thoughtful piece from Haneul Florist. He tucks a card in. On it, he writes, for those still willing to clean what others have dirted. From someone who waited too long to be brave. He seals it. Then he holds the bouquet out to her. Her hands stay at her sides. No, she says. You can't ask me to. I am asking, he says gently. But I'm also giving you a choice. You can walk out and forget this. Or you can take it to the right person and help end something that should have ended with me years ago. How do I even know who the right person is? She asks, voice cracking. He slips a business card into her hand. A detective's name, a station, a number. He's been chasing us since before you graduated high school, he says. He's stubborn, annoying, honest. You'll hate him and trust him at the same time. She looks at the bouquet, at the hidden weight inside it. If I do this, she says slowly, I could lose my job, my safety, everything. Yes, he says. And if I don't, she whispers, you'll still go through with it, just alone. Yes, he repeats. She closes her eyes, remembers the way her boss looked at the card yesterday, remembers the way he talked about people as assets, remembers the way Seon-woo talks about flowers like they were people. She opens her eyes again. Then I guess I don't want you to be alone, she says. Her fingers finally curl around the bouquet. He exhales. Don't open it, he says. Don't read it. The less you know, the safer you are, at least on paper. You really think paper can protect anyone in the city? She asks. No, he says. But it makes some people hesitate. Sometimes, hesitation is enough. The bell rings when she leaves. He watches her go until she turns the corner and is swallowed by the city. Then he goes back to his counter, wipes it down, and waits. The police station is not a place Ji-eun ever imagined herself visiting voluntarily. It smells like coffee, cramped air, and paper. A young officer at the front desk raises an eyebrow as she walks in, clutching the bouquet like it might explode. "Can I help you?" he asks. "Yes," she says, before she can talk herself out of it. I need to see Detective Kang Min-ho. It's urgent." He sighs. "I'll check if he's free," he says. "Do you have an appointment?" "No," she says. "Just tell him it's about Haneul Florist and the old boss." The word feels heavy in her mouth. It has an effect. The officer's bored expression sharpens. "Wait here," he says. Time stretches. She thinks of turning around at least 3 times. Just when she's about to bolt, a man appears in the doorway. Messy hair, tired eyes, shirt slightly untucked, tie crooked. He looks like someone who has been chasing a ghost for so long he's forgotten how to sit properly. "You," he says, eyes on the bouquet. "With the flowers. Come." He leads her to a small interrogation room that, right now, feels more like a confessional. She sits. The bouquet sits between them on the table. "So," he says, "you said Haneul Florist?" "Yes," she says. He nods, slowly. "I've been waiting to hear that name from someone who wasn't on my suspect list," he mutters. She licks her dry lips. "The owner sent this," she says. "For you." "I didn't open it." "And why bring it?" he asks. "You know what people say about him, right?" She meets his gaze. "Because sometimes the scariest person in the room isn't the one with blood on his hands," she says. "It's the one who's never bothered to wash them." He studies her, then the bouquet. "You work for the new one," he says. "Don't you?" "Yes," she says. "For now." "Then you should know," he says, fingers carefully parting the flowers to find the envelope hidden inside, "that once I open this, you can't pretend you stumbled in here by accident." "I know," she says. He breaks the seal, pulls out the folded papers. His eyes move quickly, scanning dates, names, numbers. Halfway down the page, his entire body changes. Air leaves his lungs like a punch. "Son of a..." he breathes. "He actually?" He flips through more pages. A low, disbelieving laugh escapes him. "I've been chasing this man for 15 years, he says. He disappears, fakes his death, leaves me with a mess and a headache. And now he sends me his sins wrapped in lilies." He looks up at her. "Why now?" he asks. "Because he doesn't want what he made to grow any bigger," she says. "And because the person sitting in the chair now isn't going to stop on his own." He stares at her for another long beat. Then he stands. "Okay," he says, something like electricity in his voice. "You need to leave. Now, go home. Go anywhere that isn't your office." "What are you going to do?" she asks. "What I've been trying to do for half my career," he says. "Only this time, with someone else's paperwork." He pauses at the door. "And miss?" he adds. "Yes," she says. "If anyone asks, you were never here," he says. "And if you hear about raids tonight, don't be near the buildings." Her pulse spikes. "Raids?" she repeats. He smiles, sharp and tired. "Go before I start following procedure," he says. "I don't want to put your name on any of this if I can help it." She stands. As she leaves, she looks back once. He is already on the phone, already shouting at someone about warrants and teams and finally having enough. Her hands shake all the way to the bus stop. She doesn't go back to the office. She goes home, locks the door, and waits for the city to change. Night falls. Sirens rise. Haneul Florist is closed. Lights off. Only a small glow from the back room. Inside, Seon-woo sits on the floor, back against the wall, arms resting loosely over his knees. He doesn't have to turn on the TV to know. He can hear it in the distant wails, in the sudden helicopter thrum overhead, in the way the air shifts when something big moves through a city. His phone buzzes, a message from the same number as before. They're raiding 3 of his warehouses, 2 offices. It's chaos. Another, He's not caught yet, but he's angry. He knows the leak came from your side. Seon-woo exhales. Good, he types. Then he won't waste time punishing everyone else first. He stands, walks to the sink, washes his hands. Not because they are dirty, because old habits die quietly. He looks around his shop one more time. The buckets, the stems, the flowers that will outlive him by a week at most. Sorry, he murmurs to them, for the mess. Then he picks up his jacket and walks to the door. He unlocks it, opens it, and waits. He doesn't have to wait long. Footsteps echo down the alley. More than one pair. He steps outside. Several black cars choke the entrance to the street. Lights off. Men spill out, sharp suits cutting through the dark. At their center, the boss walks like the eye of a storm. Bold of you to come here yourself, Seon-woo says. Bold of you to bite the hand that kept you hidden. The younger man replies. You didn't keep me hidden, Seon-woo says. You just didn't bother looking down. The boss face is drawn tighter than in the shop. There's a cut on his cheek now, half-dried, like he didn't have time, or didn't care, to fix it properly. Police? He asks. You went to the police? I sent them homework, Seon-woo says. It's about time they earned their salaries. You think they won't drag you in with me? His former student spits. I'm counting on it, he says. They stand a few steps apart, men around them like shadows. You could have had a quiet life, the boss says. Flowers, cats, lonely women telling you their problems. Why burn it all down? Because it was built on bones, Seon-woo says. Mine, theirs, yours. A siren wails closer, louder now. One of the henchmen shifts, hand near his jacket. The boss doesn't look at him, but his voice is ice when he says, Don't, not here, not him. The man freezes. We settle our debts another way, the boss says. He takes a step closer. You really think turning yourself in makes you a hero? He asks. No, Seon-woo says. It makes me late. A grim sort of laugh flickers in the boss' eyes. For what it's worth, he says quietly. Part of me always knew it would end like this. In handcuffs, Seon-woo asks. In your shadow, the younger man says. Lights flash at the end of the alley. Police vehicles screech to a stop. Doors slam. Hands where we can see them, a voice shouts. The men in suits bristle, instinctively shifting to form a wall. Enough, the boss says. He lifts his hands slowly. For the first time since he took the chair, he looks tired. Not physically. Somewhere deeper. Detective Kong pushes through the line of officers. He takes in the scene with a glance. The expensive clean lines of the cars, the clusters of men, the florist in his worn jacket at the doorway. I'll be damned, he mutters. You actually did it. Detective, Seon-woo says. Old man, the detective replies. You've aged. That's how time works, Seon-woo says. The boss chuckles humorlessly. Don't pretend you're doing this for him, he says. You and I both know this is about you. Everything is about me, Seon-woo says. Didn't you learn that from watching me work? Kong steps forward with cuffs. Hands behind your back, he says. Seon-woo obeys. The metal is cold, unfamiliar and familiar at once. As the detective fastens the cuffs, he leans in just enough to whisper. You know this doesn't erase anything, right? It's not supposed to, Seon-woo murmurs back. It just stops the count from climbing. Kang's jaw tightens, but he nods. They cuff the boss next. Some of his men start to move, loyalty outweighing self-preservation. Stand down, he snaps. You'll only add your names to his letter. The alley is a mess of shouts, radio crackles, slamming doors. As they guide him toward one of the cars, Seon-woo looks back once. The shop sits behind him, dark, small, unbroken. He lets himself smile. Just a little. Months pass. Then more. Lawyers talk. Judges listen. Newspapers spit ink and speculation. Some charges stick, some don't. Deals are made. Stories cut and rearranged. In the end, both men go to prison. The older one pleads guilty faster than anyone expects. The younger one fights harder, but the paper's hidden in lilies cut deep. Inside, life shrinks to concrete, schedules, and numbered doors. Outside, the city heals in small, messy ways. Children still run down the alley. The cat still naps. And eventually, Haneul Florist opens its shutters again. The bell rings as a customer leaves, bouquet in hand, thanking the young woman behind the counter. She bows, then sighs when the door closes. The apron she wears is a little too big. The way she wipes the table is a little too careful. But there is something steady in the way she moves, like someone who chose this work on purpose, not by accident. "Excuse me," a voice says from the doorway. She looks up. Her breath catches. He's thinner, older around the eyes. But it's him. "Juicy," Ji-eun says. Her voice cracks on the second syllable. "Are you open?" Seon-woo asks. She wipes at her eyes with the back of her hand and laughs. "Yes," she says. "We never really closed. Just took a long, quiet breath." He steps inside. The air smells the same as before. Flowers, water, earth. "Who keeps overwatering the hydrangeas?" he asks, touching a leaf. "I do," she admits. "They look thirsty. They look spoiled," he says. "Like children whose grandparents won't stop feeding them." She laughs again, wet and bright. "How long?" She starts, then stops, not sure which question to ask first. "How long until they let me out?" he finishes for her. "On paper, longer. In practice, someone decided I was more useful on this side of the bars, as long as I stay where they can find me." "So you're free?" she asks. "As free as a man with a very detailed file," he says. He looks around. "You rearranged," he notes. "A little," she says. "People kept asking for certain flowers, so I moved them forward. And I hired a part-timer," she adds proudly. "Only for weekends." Kids like seeing someone closer to their age behind the counter. "Did they?" he asks. "They also like your grumpy face," she says. "They kept asking when the real Ajusi would come back." Something in his chest loosens at that. He moves behind the counter, fingers brushing the worn wood. "There's dust," he says. "Then clean it," she shoots back. "I'm running on muscle memory and vibes here. I never had a proper teacher, remember? You had the worst one," he says. "In every sense." She steps closer. "You gave me a choice," she says quietly. "Most people in your old world never got that." He looks at her. "You could have walked away," he says. "When I gave you that bouquet, you could have left it on a bench and gone home." "I did go home," she says. "Just by way of a police station." He huffs out a breath that might be a laugh. "How's your former boss?" he asks. Her face shifts, something complicated moving through it. "Gone," she says. "For a long time. He took a plea too. Not as fast as you, but in the end, he stopped fighting." "He always did hate losing," Seon-woo says. "He didn't look like he lost," she replies. "He looked relieved. In a weird way. Some prisons are lighter than others," he says. They stand among the flowers, the weight of all their choices hanging between them like a scent. After a moment, she clears her throat. "I kept something for you," she says, moving to a shelf. She brings out a small vase. In it, a single bloom. The same type he once used as a code. Only now it stands alone. "No more secret marks," she says. "Just a reminder." "Of what?" he asks. "That even dangerous people can learn how to hold something fragile without breaking it," she says. He looks at the flower, at her, at the shop, at the small world he tried to build to make up for the big one he helped break. "Are you going to stay?" she asks softly. "Or vanish again?" He thinks of all the places he could run. Then he thinks of the only place he ever chose on purpose. "I have work to do," he says. "Finally," she replies. "Someone to blame when customers complain their bouquets last too long." He snorts. "That's not a real complaint," he says. "You'd be shocked what people find a way to complain about," she says. He reaches for an apron hanging on the hook, puts it on, ties it. It feels heavier than he remembers, and somehow lighter too. So, he says, show me how you've been abusing the hydrangeas. Gladly, she says. She moves to the row of plants, starts explaining every mistake she's made. He corrects her, gently, with the kind of exasperated patience that has nothing to do with crime and everything to do with teaching someone you've decided is worth the effort. Outside, the alley goes on. Children play. The cat naps. Life continues, unconcerned with the fact that a man once called boss now spends his days worrying about water levels and sunlight. Near closing time, when the last customer leaves and the bell rings one final time for the day, Seon-woo stands in front of the display window. Ji-eun joins him. Help me pick something for the front, he says. A special bouquet? She asks. A quiet one, he says. For ourselves. They choose together. White lilies, because surrender can be voluntary. White roses, because respect doesn't have to come from fear. Baby's breath, because some of the most important work is done by people no one notices. And one last flower, the one that used to be a secret code. They place it in the center. This time, he says, it means something else. What? She asks. That the story changes, he says. Even if the people don't change as fast as they should. They set the bouquet in the front window. From outside, it looks like any other piece in Haneul Florist. Inside, it feels like a full stop at the end of a long, messy sentence. In a city that once said his name with fear, he is now just the man who sells flowers. It's not redemption. It's not erasure. But it is a different ending than the one everyone expected. And sometimes, in stories like his, that's the bravest thing anyone can grow.